Welcome to Withdraw Consent. My name is Victor. This is Jack. We're joined again today by Garen. If you were with us on Monday, you'll see a presentation that Garen did concerning the 25 points that the Nazi Party ran on in, this was 33 or?
Yeah, no, they adopted this in the 20s.
Oh, okay,
I think it was
gotcha.
1922, and they never changed it once. It's
great.
word for word. They never changed it.
Okay.
And then these are the policies they put in place, yeah.
Okay. So we're now in filming land. We're weeks later, and we wanted to do, in addition to Garen's video, we wanted to really kind of go into not real deep, but just cover the 25 points and present them to you and just give you some food for thought and what our thoughts are. And so we're going to do that today. It's going to be two parts. The first half will be today, and tomorrow will be the second half. And so, number one,
Okay.
go for it.
So we're just going to read them word for word, and then we're just going to discuss it. Some of them don't require a ton of discussion. So the very first point of the 25 points is we demand the union of all Germans in a greater Germany on the basis of the principle of self-determination of all peoples. We've talked about self-determination in the past. That just means you have a right to choose your government. And so after World War I, Treaty of Versailles, they split Germany into a bunch of... Well, now all these people who are German are like in Alsace-Lorraine. They're now French citizens. And so you have a right to choose what government you have. And they're demanding that those people actually get that actuated, and that they get to choose their government. And we know that this was one, it's number one. It's one of the main things, the main goals that Hitler had. And we know he achieved that successfully, except for the last portion, which was in Poland.
And so the Germans that were still in Germany, they were passionate about reuniting with their people.
Right,
Okay.
right. And even like I was watching some propaganda video, and it was on the radio. It was little radio when the phones were out, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't use my phone. And the guy was saying, Hitler wasn't even German. He was Austrian. Okay, so it's the Germanic peoples. So they're still Germans of the German people, of the same tribe of Teutons who came and so, And so the reunification included Austria during the Anschluss, It's a pretty simple one.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, number two, we demand that the German people have rights equal to those of other nations and that the peace treaties of Versailles and Saint-Germain be abrogated. So the German people were just under this terrible burden of repaying all this debt that was lumped upon them as a part of the end of World War I. And it was just this burden that was weighing the people down, and Hitler wanted to get rid of it for his people, just so that they could live like everyone else is living without this burden.
Right. It's not a big ask to say they want to have rights equal to those of other nations.
Yeah.
Sounds like a terrible dictator, right?
It's not that we want more, we're better than it. We just status quo for everyone.
Right.
Yeah, especially after what happened with Versailles and how they had no rights, basically.
Right.
Which leads us into point number 3. We demand land and territory colonies for the maintenance of our people and the settlement of our surplus population. So on the surface, that sounds a little bit far-reaching, like he wants to just take a bunch of territory. But the borders of Germany at the beginning of World War II were no bigger than the borders of the German Empire at the end of World War I, before all the pieces got taken away. And then new countries were created, sometimes arbitrarily, that were formerly German, like Austria, Czechoslovakia, parts of Poland. And so really and all those colonies, they got lost, not during the war, but during a treaty that they went in, surrendering in good faith. And then basically all those territories got taken and divided around Europe.
Okay.
And I think the part about the colonies is you got to look at it from the lens of their time.
Right.
The way you cashed in was through colonies.
Right.
And they had multiple colonies in Africa during World War I, which were taken from them.
Yeah. Just like England.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's outdated way of thinking, but it's not outdated for the time that they were
That
in.
was just normal.
We'll say.
Plus, they had way fewer colonies in England and France and other places too, and most of it was either in Europe next to Germany, or just a few in Africa and a couple in the Pacific.
Right. It was, on a much smaller scale. Okay, so for the fourth point, this one it's going to take a little while to go through. But it says, only those who are fellow countrymen can become citizens. Only those who have German blood, regardless of creed, can be our countrymen. Hence, no Jew can be a countryman. Right? So only fellow countrymen can become citizens. Only those who have German blood, regardless of creed, religion, can be our countrymen. So hence no Jew can be a countryman. So when we're talking about Jew in this context, we're talking about Hebrews. We're talking about, no, so these are German citizens prior to Hitler, but they're ethnically Hebrew.
Okay.
Right? And so the total different descendancies. And so basically I want to explain to you about the laws that they actually put in place to to do this part 4 right here, okay? So they're called the Nuremberg laws, and they're 2 different separate laws, and they were signed and went into effect in late 1935, okay? The first one's called the Reich Citizenship Law, and it says that a subject of the state is a person who enjoys the protection of the German Reich and who in consequence has specific obligations toward it. So that's a subject separated from a citizen and separated from an alien. A Reich citizen is a subject of the state who is of German or related blood and proves by his conduct that he is willing and fit to faithfully serve the German people and Reich. The lot in there. German or related blood. So somewhere Germanic in there.
Okay.
You know, but we're not talking like pure bloods here. We're talking about just German people, you know?
Okay.
And proves by his conduct that he is willing and fit to faithfully serve the German people and Reich. It reminds me of that one in America. What was it? It was remember, it was a standard of citizenship, and it was based on... white men of good moral standing. Right, of good moral standing. It reminds me of that. By his conduct, he is willing and fit to faithfully serve the German people and Reich. Okay, and then basically, they made the rule that if you have one grandparent who... If you only have one grandparent, say, who's Jewish... Okay. Then you're not Jewish because you have 3 grandparents who are Germans. Okay. Which would put you at 25%. And then your child, if you married a woman with no grandparents, your child would be 12.5%. And it would be gone very rapidly in the future that they were doing. In November of 1935, they expanded this Reich citizenship law to Roma, who were the gypsies, and blacks. But at first, it mostly talked about Jews, you know?
So it was specifically tailored to remove them from the right or the privileges of being a citizen.
Right, of being a citizen. You could still be a subject of the state.
Right.
And you could be an alien if you were a tourist passing through or whatever, or a, diplomat or whatever. And then the second law is called, the second of the Nuremberg law is called the Law for the Protection of German Blood and Honor. And it moved by the understanding that purity of German blood is the essential condition for the continued existence of the German people, and inspired by the inflexible determination to ensure the existence of the German nation for all time. So that's the caption right below the law that they put, right? Okay. And here's what the law actually does. Section A, marriages between Jews and citizens of German or related blood are forbidden. B, extramarital relations between Jews and citizens of German blood or related blood are forbidden. No marrying, no sleeping with. C, Jews may not employ in their households female subjects of the state of Germany or related blood who are under 45 years old.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
I mean, you're just protecting your women, There could be crazy situations, and then the woman doesn't want to speak out about it, but then she has a kid.
But it also implies knowledge of how they are with people who aren't Jewish.
Yeah, that's a good point. Section D, Jews are forbidden to fly the Reich or national flag or display Reich colors.
Wow.
It's interesting because if I had people blended in among us, pretending that they were part of us, but they were working against our interests, and then you slap them with a bunch of American flags, it's like, oh, it's one of us. But no.
Yeah.
And then the last part is part E. They are, on the other hand, permitted to display the Jewish colors. The exercise of this right is protected by the state. So they can't be discriminated against for flying Jewish colors.
Okay, gotcha.
And then if you guys want to say anything, go ahead. That's basically just the research behind what Part 4 became. Sure.
Yeah, it's and so you said that all those points you just went through basically get implemented for people of other races later on.
The same year, yeah.
Oh, okay.
In November 1935, they quickly then said, Roma and blacks.
Okay, it seems like you're just listing. They were just listing a couple of buckets of people, but yet there's way more buckets out there. Like, did they care about Japanese people or Chinese people?
Yeah, but there was no Japanese people in the Reich, though.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, if you watch a Netflix movie, or ask Google Gemini,
that's true.
They're all Japanese people in the Reichs. But
okay,
you got anything to say, Garen, on those points?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like basically it still gives them their rights to express their identity and everything, but that way they can't. It makes it like a false flag or something a lot harder, where they fly a certain flag or they're part of a group and they're flying the the German flag or whatever, and then they do something and then the media takes it as, oh, that was fabricated by Hitler or the National Socialist Party, but like it makes it a lot harder to be infiltrated.
Yeah, I was surprised that they had those provisions in there about that, about the
Yeah.
The
But
colors.
yeah, but it's a good idea because then you want to arrest the person when they're wearing the colors before they do the false flag.
Okay.
It's a way better protective scenario.
Well, it's just they're not allowed to be a chameleon and act like
Right, which is
someone
what
who
they
they're
had been
not.
for a long period of
Right.
that time.
And still are. All right, so number 5, it's basically just an offshoot of number 4. Those who are not citizens must live in Germany as foreigners and must be subject to the law of aliens. So it's keeping that line of, and it's an assumption that people of the same blood are going to have the same goals, generally, and that people who don't have the same blood are going to have different priorities, and you're trying to maintain your culture and keep them separate.
Yeah, and this was nothing new either. This is basically how the world's been since, well, throughout the Middle Ages. And I mean, going back to Rome, really, where you had citizens and aliens. And then when they start to mix, that's when you end up with social structures starting to decline, usually.
Yep.
Number 6 is also an offshoot of number 4, sort of. The right to choose the government and determine the laws of the state shall belong only to citizens. We therefore demand that no public office of whatever nature, whether in the central government, the province, or the municipality, shall be held by anyone who is not a citizen. We wage war against the corrupt parliamentary administration, whereby men are appointed to posts by favor of the party without regard to character or fitness. So this isn't really that different from the founding of America, where you had to be a citizen to be in office, and you weren't allowed to have foreign titles or have foreign interests. So it's really basic common sense. And also, being a citizen means you have the duty to, like, all those responsibilities too, and be of good moral character. So with that combined with the last 2, where you have to, fly your own flag and basically prove your loyalty and do your part, it makes a lot of sense. And then the second part, where it says we wage war against the corrupt parliamentary administration, that's how every country in Europe is, and much of the world too today, where you have these parliaments that the people aren't even the people in these prime minister type positions aren't elected by the people. They just elect the party, and then the party decides based on who they think is the best, or who has the most tenure, who's been there the longest, who's done the most favors for a certain person, and then it just boils down to corruption.
I don't know if you guys heard the story, because this is just really hits the point here, but in San Francisco, they've elected an illegal immigrant to the elections board for San Francisco, handling in violation of federal law, right? But the voters in California voted that it's now legal for illegal immigrants to hold office on committees. So she's elected. She's from Hong Kong. She's Taiwanese or something. And she has so much disdain for America that she does her press conferences in Chinese. And you can subtitle them if you want to know what she's saying.
That is
right?
insane.
She speaks English, and she's not allowed to vote, but she's on the election board.
That is crazy.
And so this is just the, what is it, the argument ad nauseum or ad infinitum, you know what I mean? Where it's just, this is why you need this.
Right.
Oh, can I make one more point on that?
Yeah, go for it.
That's also something that's mentioned a lot in some of Hitler's writings, where he talks a lot about the Austrian Empire, the Habsburg Empire, and how one of its main problems is that it's really corrupt, and you've got a bunch of people in there that the people had no say, but also you had so many competing interest groups, or not interest groups, different nations. You had Slavs, you had Hungarians, and like a military officer had to be able to issue drill commands in like 9 different languages. That's how diverse it was. So everyone was speaking a different language. And then the Hungarians wanted everyone to speak Hungarian, which really divided the people. So yeah, that's another side benefit of that particular point.
Right. Yeah, it's a great point. Okay, so now we go to number 7, and it says, we demand that the state shall above all undertake to ensure that every citizen shall have the possibility of living decently and earning a livelihood. Sounds dictatorial. Second part, if it should not be possible to feed the whole population, then aliens, in parentheses, non-citizens, must be expelled from the Reich.
Okay.
So this is horrible racism. Because if you said this about France today, and you said the actual French people don't have enough food, so the Algerians, which is a large segment of this population, because they're a former colony and now they get unlimited citizenship if they want to France. I don't know if they've changed that recently, but they have to go back to Algeria. The Muslim Algerians will say.
Yeah.
If you said that, you would be a terrible racist. People would be furious.
Right. It's really just taking care of your people.
Right. And so if you have decent critical thinking and morality, this is not terrible.
I liken everything back to if you have a household and you've got your family and you have someone staying with you. If money's short, you don't kick out your family. You kick out the dude who's staying there on your couch.
Racist.
It's terrible.
You're such a racist.
That's so hateful.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Number 8. Any further immigration of non-Germans must be prevented. We demand that all non-Germans who have entered Germany since August 2nd, 1914 shall be compelled to leave the Reich immediately. So this is a retroactive thing. It's so similar to what we talk about with the Keller Act. What was the in the 60s?
Hart-Celler Act.
Hart-Celler Act. That's close.
Right.
Where they just completely butchered our immigration laws. And, we when we think about what we like to do in the future, it's the exact same thing as this. Let's just go back retroactively to those laws, and anyone who is here because of those law changes, they're gone. And it's just about keeping the country for the people it was created for.
Right.
All right, number 9. All citizens must possess equal rights and duties. Duh.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. I don't think there's a ton of explanation needing to go into that. Just kind of like pull your own weight too. Don't use your position as a citizen to try to, get extra favors that other people aren't able to get, or other citizens, I should say. But also, they don't just have the rights, they have the duties, and they all have to pull their weight. It's basically like living in a tribe. It's just a giant manifestation.
It reminds me of that one manuscript that we read, and the author said that the entire system was built around honor through duty.
Yes.
The only way you achieve honor in this society that they're talking about is through doing your duty.
Right.
And therefore, every citizen must do their duty. It's just...
Yeah.
Number 10 is tied real close to number 9. Okay? And it says, the first duty of every citizen must be to work mentally or physically. No individual shall do any work that offends against the interest of the community to the benefit of all.
Awesome.
Man, it sounds terrible, right? But it just ties totally into the last one. You have to work.
Right.
Right? And we're not talking about everybody, the 92-year-old person,
But this isn't also that women need to work.
They work in the household.
Right.
That's
but
still,
we're not saying that everyone needs a paycheck. You
Right.
just have to be pulling your part of the weight for
right.
society.
And you cannot do any work that offends against the interest of the community to the benefit of all.
Right.
So like trans activism, that would not be working towards the benefit of the
Right.
community. Basically what happened is that a lot of people got sent to concentration camps. Communists, all types of peoples. And one of the and you got a patch depending on what you were. There was the gay patch, there was the communist patch, which were called social democrats at the time. There was another patch for work shy.
Okay.
If you were work shy, just picture a hobo, asking for money on the corner. You are not. You have a duty as a citizen to work mentally and physically. If you're not going to fulfill that duty, then you get put in a work camp and you go build the Autobahn. You go build the Siegfried line. You're forced to work. You could have done it on your own. You didn't have to. And at some point, you could, if you want to get out and just go work, you can.
Right.
But
one way or another, you're going to do your part.
Yeah, and I mean, how tough is this? How tough is that to say? Everybody's
seems
contributing to the
reasonable.
benefit of all.
Right.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I don't want to support the person who's not working.
So basically, this is the first 10 we've done out of
Right.
25. And so, Garen, do you want to explain to him about the natural break here between the first 10 and then the...
Yeah, so the first 10 are kind of a sort of outline of the next, 15 is 25. So it says after point 10, therefore we demand, and then it has much more specific demands in order to, like from the, I think the League of Nations, or like basically the international world order at the time. And basically it's a sort of both demand of their independence from them and from how they've kind of been held hostage with the Versailles Treaty. And it has things like, we demand the nationalization of all trusts. We demand a generous increase in old age pensions. So yeah, it's just more specific demands, basically.
So it sounds like the first 10 is we're defining who the German people are, and now we're going to get into what do those people, what do they demand of the
Right.
government
Right.
and their country.
Okay, and we'll cover that tomorrow.
Yep, totally. Yeah, that'll be part 2 tomorrow. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Garen will be with us again to help going through this, and we'll see you then.